I'm out here at Rare Plant Research. I'm with Burl. Burl, today we are talking olives.
Sounds great to me.
And olives are one of those things that we don't think of necessarily as being able to grow in the Northwest, but actually we can.
We can. Actually, the first olive tree that I had was about 20 years ago, planted it right against the house, never thought it would make it. Well, 10 years later, I dug it up and moved it to our new place, and it's still in the garden, and now it's like 10 feet high. So they really can. The secret, I think, is the trunk has to be about 3/4 of an inch in diameter or so for them to be really hardy. If they're small, like in this plant, you'd want to protect it if it got like much below 20 degrees.
Okay.
20 degrees, no problem. We've even heard of stories where they've actually gone to 15 below zero, frozen clear to the ground, but come back from the
wow.
roots. That's like unheard of, but it happened here in Oregon.
Right.
So it's kind of surprising.
We've heard of like an Arbequina olive here in Northern, but there's many more varieties that are actually.
There's like over 200 different varieties, and I raise about, well, I don't know, at least a dozen different cultivars. Franchoia is one that I think is going to do well. It produces a lot. Olives are bigger than Arbequina, and they're just really prolific and really hardy. But the key for most of them is the trunk diameter. We're finding that a lot of them that California says, oh, these aren't very hardy, they're just as hardy for us as some of the others. So it's kind of amazing.
So if you're planting these in the yard, being hardy, what kind of requirements do they need?
Okay, they need well-drained soil. And so around here, if we have heavy clay, it's kind of an issue. So if you plant them on a mound, mound the soil up, some real fast draining soil, maybe with some sand or gravel in it, 18 inches high, planted in that, you should be fine. Okay. I planted some in our garden. It's on a slope, and it's really heavy clay, and I actually dug a bigger hole, put real fast draining soil, and then I put a drain pipe in the bottom so it would run down the hill, and it's been in the ground for 10 or 12 years. It's been no problem.
And we're looking at like these varieties that are already flowering, and one next to you too that's actually has some fruit on it at a very young age.
Yes, these, that was the flower. These were in a heated greenhouse, and so they're a little bit farther along than outside. Outside now, they're just starting to break bud, and so these are raised from cuttings, and so they flower and fruit really young.
Yeah.
If you raise them from seed, it would be 10 or 15 years before they
right. But you're talking about the large one up in the garden. So let's go take a look at that one, and so we can see how big these are actually.
That sounds good.
So, Burl, now we're out here in your landscape, and this is obviously a very mature olive plant.
Yes, this is about 40, 45 years old.
Oh, wow.
And you can see that I've planted it in a raised bed because what we're standing on is actually heavy clay soil, and you can see we're at about 18 inches above the ground. I've got gravel and some compost and stuff mixed in there, and you can see it's doing really well.
Yeah, it is.
It's been in the ground about 10 years.
And it's, looking at the shape of this, it's not necessarily like a tree form that we would think. It's more like a large shrub or something.
Yes, actually, olives really, they pup a lot, and they have a lot of suckers, and you got to actually trim those off, otherwise it'll just be a huge shrub. And usually you want to open them up so they kind of spread out, like, so they're open, and then you can have more area for olives and leaves and stuff like that. So you can see how this kind of opens up. Right. It's not just a single trunk that goes up.
And then this one, we saw the ones down in the greenhouse that were just starting to flower because it's been a little bit warmer. But when does the flowering usually come on?
Usually it's early June, sometimes late May. This year, the buds are just starting to swell now. It's wind pollinated, so it's good to have 2 trees. And you don't always necessarily need 2 trees, but it's good to have 2 different varieties, and so the wind blows and it pollinates it that way.
And then after it's flowering, when do you fruit?
Typically we pick usually around in November, sometimes as late as December. It just depends. If you're going to make oil, which is kind of hard to do because you have to have an oil press, and they're like $100,000. So you don't. Most people don't want to have one of those. But if you cure them with salt, like what we do, and brine, then it takes about a month to cure them, and you can pick them actually green, and they're still really, really good when you brine them. If you pick them too green when they're, if you're going to make oil, the oil can be a little hot. But there's really no way that the homeowner can make oil without that press.
But you do have some. Let's go inside the conservatory and check out what you've had.
That sounds good.
Okay, so Burl, now we're out here at the conservatory at the Villa Catalana, and these are olives that you harvested last year, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So how do we get the olives off the tree to something like this?
Well, I have a little, it's a little hand kind of thing you can buy that you can just break them off the tree, and then you brine them. And so you take a lot of salt in water, and you change the salt every week. You soak them in there, and it takes about a month and a half, and then they're done.
And that's it, and then you just eat it?
They just eat them,
just
yeah.
like that.
And they can stay in the refrigerator for a year or two, and they're fine.
And then, so if somebody wants to come purchase olives, you actually have a sale coming up next weekend.
That's right, we do. The 21st and 22nd, and from 11 to 4, our nursery is going to be open for the public. It's only a couple times a year that we're open for the public.
Right, which is it's kind of a rare occasion. So you
It
have
is.
the olives, but you also have an amazing array
Agaves,
of
bulbs,
rare plants.
I mean, all kinds of caudiciforms, all kinds of things.
Right, and you also have wine tasting.
As a matter of fact, we do. Our winery will be open at Saturday and Sunday as well. And this year, not by appointment, so
you can just show up.
they can just show up, yeah.
So better yet, so if you're looking for some rare plants, if you're looking for olives, if you're looking for wine tasting, make sure you come out here to Rare Plant Research, Villa Catalana, and do a little wine tasting, pick up some plants next weekend. It's going to be an amazing event. So Burl, I appreciate all the information, and I'm looking forward to a little of this and some of that.
That sounds great to me.
Cheers.